upon us as this Easter weekend we reflect on the growing season to come. We're growing corn and must make a hybrid selection, and we'll talk with Fontenelle's Chris Anderson about what we should consider. Plus, planting seeds for the future, how city kids connect with agriculture. And Nebraska scientists unlock a mystery, the link between naturally occurring uranium and fertilizer applications. That and much more, it's time to grow. An effort to block the president's version of the Waters of the U.S. rule vetoed by the commander-in-chief. The bill, sponsored by a Missouri Republican congressman, passed through both the House and Senate. President Biden issuing a statement on Twitter, quote, "I just vetoed a bill that attempted to block our administration from protecting our nation's waterways, a resource millions of Americans depend on from destruction and pollution. Let me be clear, every American has a right to clean water. This veto protects that right." End quote. Nebraska Farm Bureau President Mark McHarg reacting, saying, quote, "Time and again, efforts to expand the regulatory reach of the Clean Water Act have been rejected by Congress, courts, farmers, and ranchers, and anyone who turns the earth with a shovel." President Biden's tone-deaf rejection of a bipartisan resolution passed through both houses of Congress is not surprising, yet extremely disappointing. It is our hope that the U.S. Supreme Court will send the Biden administration a clear and direct message to go back to the drawing board on a new Waters of the U.S. rule that respects private property rights and states' regulatory authority. End quote. Nebraska scientists have unraveled a mystery that could help protect groundwater, and they did it not far from where I'm standing here near Alda in Hall County. What they've done is finding a link between commercially produced fertilizer and nitrates and naturally occurring uranium.
These two blue pipes,
water
that you see right here,
to drink,
water that's coming into the system,
irrigate.
And what that water does is
for wildlife and industry.
Stainless steel pipe that's up here is actually
protecting this resource required Hastings to address high nitrate levels, but they were baffled when they tested for completely unrelated contaminants.
Communities would have nitrates, and shortly thereafter we'd see uranium show up.
Why would a naturally occurring heavy metal be linked to fertilizer use? Marty Stange started calling scientists in other states.
Don't you know that's being done at the University of Nebraska? I was so embarrassed.
Dr. Carrie Weber had been collecting samples in central Nebraska, and back in the lab, she introduced nitrates
to see if there's an additive effect. And that nitrate did add to the increase of uranium.
Researchers found nitrates changed the chemistry of the aquifer, and bacteria play a role.
They're eating the organic matter, breathing the nitrate. They produce a product that then converts that solid mineral now to something that can be moved in the water.
Naturally occurring uranium is radioactive, and the amount in water is often minimal.
You get more from the sun or banana.
But scientists found areas with high nitrates were seeing uranium levels up to 89 times the EPA threshold.
It was really a surprise. No, Hastings, you shouldn't have a problem. We knew it was in the Platte Valley, and it has to do with the geology that was there.
The good news for Hastings is the Aquifer Storage and Restoration Project uses reverse osmosis, which also removes other contaminants, including uranium.
I'd say that we had a good educated guess and we got a little bit lucky, so it's a little of both.
Now armed with this research, they hope to put a number to it.
But it's that tipping point as you go over a certain concentration of nitrate, and then you get this uranium in the groundwater.
Some of the water that we don't treat.
The implications are huge in a state where most get their drinking water from groundwater, and where farmers applied fertilizer before the nitrate issue was well understood. The Hastings ASR project has shown positive effects over 5 years, but this is an issue that's not going away.
We haven't taken care of the nitrate legacy out there. We're just to a point where we can at least keep our head above water.
Grand Island 2 was a reluctant pioneer building a uranium treatment center about a decade ago. The state says currently 3 city water supplies do exceed the maximum level of uranium. And scientists at the University of Nebraska encourage private well owners to have their water tested as well.
You know, it's important if you do have a domestic well that you do test it, you know what's in your well. Because one thing, generally speaking, here I'm focusing on nitrate and uranium, but the end result is water is not just water. Water reflects what it passes across and what it passes through. So it can have natural as well as unnatural or human-induced contaminants in it. So I think, generally speaking, a well owner should have an idea what's in their water and is it safe to drink without treatment.
The university recommends testing annually for bacteria and nitrate. Irrigation wells should be tested periodically. Knowing the amount of nitrogen present could potentially reduce the amount of fertilizer that's applied. And water is the single most important nutrient for livestock. Research has documented reduced animal performance when water is contaminated. And Husker scientists are showing how remote sensing is changing agriculture. Last summer, we brought you a story of how NASA provides tools that can be used by farmers. NASA is also collaborating with the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, which is doing lots of work on remote sensing. The technology can be used to increase efficiency of nitrogen fertilizer, resulting in increased profitability and lessening negative environmental impacts. A pair of Husker scientists recently presented at Commodity Classic, a national farmer-led event. Corn, wheat, soybeans, and sorghum, and more. A lot can be grown in Nebraska, and it depends on people to raise it. Now Taylor Leverett reports how kids are connecting with that message.
Kearney Public School third graders got the chance to be farmers for a day.
Didn't experience agriculture firsthand.
From learning how to rope in a bull and commanding a horse to seeing firsthand why seatbelts are just as important in the car as on farm equipment.
You can see even though the tractor rolls over, she doesn't get squished underneath there and she's in with her seatbelt.
It's an exciting time when you get to see something that you haven't been exposed to before.
You need land for our crops to grow.
Elson says all 10 exhibits at the Life on the Farm event connects the what to the how.
Whether it was a corn plant at one time or maybe it was a pig or something like that as well. And so now putting those pieces together and understanding how agriculture really provides for just about everything we use.
The seed of being a producer was certainly planted.
You guys think you're going to own a farm one day, or?
Probably.
Without a doubt, producing food attracts people of all ages. The U.S. Department of Agriculture says more than a quarter of new farmers were under the age of 35. Elson says events teaching ag education are crucial, since agriculture is a part of everyone's every day.
You know, if you were to challenge someone to think of the products that we use throughout the day and come up with something that doesn't have a relationship to agriculture, it's incredibly difficult to be able to do that. And so when we think about how important agriculture is to our state and then to each of us individually, it's amazing to really be able to see our students put together those pieces.
Carrie says this annual event is just the start to teaching the next generation of leaders in agriculture. Reporting in Kearney, I'm Taylor Leverett.
The iconic Blue Jackets of FFA stand out, whether in the country or city. During the recent state convention, kids from Omaha-Bryan met with kids from Axtell and Pender. Omaha FFA members have been discussing life through a pen pal letter exchange with rural kids to gain a better understanding of Nebraska agriculture. The Omaha-Bryan Egg program got the ball rolling after they noticed how greatly their experiences in Omaha can differ from rural communities. Omaha-Bryan has one of the largest egg programs in the state with 200 members. Up next, we need to pick a hybrid for the corn we're growing. And later, Kent Boughton is in with our Grow Weather Outlook as we look ahead towards planting season.
This portion of NTV's Grow is sponsored by Acres Equipment, solutions for every field. Acres has what you need to get the job done.
Well, if you've been following along, we're taking part in the UNL TAPS contest, and I've got a guy with me who's done this a few times. We thought we might pick on him. Chris Anderson's joining us from Fontenelle, part of the Bayer family. You're a technical agronomist, is that right, with Fontenelle and Bayer?
You bet. Been doing that for, I don't know, 15 years.
Yeah.
A while.
A while.
So, yep.
So seed selection, we got to decide what we're going to put in the ground. I've got a catalog full of hybrids here, and I don't know. What do I need to be looking at as we're making a choice here?
You know, TAPS does a great job of reaching out to the brands that are,
right,
you know, taking place out there in the North Platte area, because that's one thing, probably the first thing that we got to think about is what's going to work in North Platte. Not necessarily what's going to work on your own farm, but what's going to work good at North Platte. And particularly at North Platte, it's an irrigated farm right south of the river there. There is some great options, and you know, first you've got to think is you've got to put on your lottery cap right out the gate.
Right.
Because they take a lot of the early decision-making pieces out of it in the fact that they're going to pick the right day to plant and the right soil conditions, the right moisture, and have that going for you. So then, you know, you after that have to pick up the piece of what's this product going to act like and react to the way I want to play with this rest of this competition, because there's a lot of pieces go into this,
right?
And how that product is going to react to the things that you wish to do through the rest of it.
Let's look at Pioneer. So what's a number on here that's done well in this contest then?
So one that has had a historical track record and done really good is 1366.
Okay.
It's one that probably it's going to take a little bit more inputs. The guys, you know, that are really making that, you know, excel in this program are giving it on the upper end of, you know, added inputs through the year. Do I want to be that team that
throws everything at it, goes full fertility and full water?
Correct. Or do you want to be the one that says, I'm going to use this to see really how good a corn we can raise with a little bit less of those inputs and get the maximum out of those? Then you got to start thinking traits with these. And
yeah, well, talk to me about that. I mean, these days there's a lot of different options that way, aren't there?
There is. I mean, there's as many different traits as there is corn companies anymore. And, but the nice thing about it, the contest is always held on rotated ground. So we don't have to worry about the rootworm component so much.
Sure.
But we do need to worry about other aspects that always happen out there, and being in the valley where it's at, western bean cutworm's a problem every year.
Yeah.
So having a trait to defend against that, I guess that was one, you know, tool I always kept in my toolbox is if it's offered in the bag, let's use it.
And the one I had looked at was it this one here?
Yep, 11DT 591.
There you go.
That one, you know, that one as well as two others that are in the Fontenelle products you could choose from all hold the Tricepta trait, which picks up western bean cutworm, no different than 1366 traded, you know, for theirs.
Right.
That's a great tool to have in your arsenal if that day comes, because if that's, you know, 10 or 15 bushels off the top, that may be the difference of you winning and not winning.
Right. Well, and then obviously what we're doing now affects, you know, our chemical decisions and everything. A lot hinges on what we're talking about right here, doesn't it?
Exactly. And you know, we also talked about how we're going to water it and how we're going to fertilize
exactly.
it.
And since the goal of TAPS, they're trying to help guys do more with less. You know, my bias, I guess, in doing this contest is trying to do it with a little bit less input. See if we can push the envelope a little bit that way. So like this 11DT 591, do you think that's one we could maybe get by with a little less on the fertility side?
It is one that, you know, do you totally starve it? No. But can it get by with less? You bet. Can it get by with a little less water? You bet. It's one that will, you know, respond to that and still save probably your maximum return of bushels after the fact
sure.
of that. And, you know, it's got a definite proven track record there at North Platte and, you know, local fields out there. So it's a local favorite that you also got going that you know works well out there for you.
Stay with us. Our Grow Weather Outlook is next.
NTV's Grow Weather is sponsored by Acres Equipment, solutions for every field. Acres has what you need to get the job done.
The drought monitor not improved this week, but the good news is the amount of property down in Kansas drought-free does remain the same this week, and that is 15.66%. Salina, Topeka, St. Joe, and the KC area. As far as the rest of the drought in Kansas, abnormally dry 84.33%, moderate 75%, and then severe 65.5%. The problem is the extreme. It is 52.33% in the Sunflower State and exceptional drought in Kansas, 37.5%. In Nebraska, still that little bitty spot in the southeast corner, a third of 1%, drought-free, 99.5%, abnormally dry, 98 1/3, moderate, and then severe is 78.5%. The extreme drought in Nebraska, not as bad as Kansas, but bad enough, 32.5%, and exceptional this week remains at 5.1% in the northeast corner of the state. We have moisture chances, nothing that you could call likely in our long-range forecast. As far as temperatures are concerned, normal temperatures expected for April for Nebraska and Kansas, except the southeast corner of Kansas above normal in the temperature category. And then average precipitation for April in both Kansas and Nebraska. In a big share of the country, that's always good news. The 3-month outlook for temperatures, all normal in Nebraska and normal in the northeast and northwest corners of Kansas, otherwise above normal temperatures expected most of Kansas for the next 3 months. As far as precip, also a good outlook. Normal rainfall amounts expected in Nebraska, most of Kansas, except the southwest corner where it is expected to be below normal. We see a warm week ahead, 73 tomorrow, 78 Tuesday, a run of 80s the middle of the week. A cold front means a chance of showers, maybe even some isolated thunderstorms. We do cool down Friday, but normal for this time of year is lower 60s. So that is a good forecast as far as the warmth is concerned. Normal lows 36, and we will average right at 78 for a high. Our low this week ahead will average around 50. Well, the sandhill crane's still here. If the cranes make a great noise, I call it trumpeting. That kind of thing. Yes, I don't call them in. They wouldn't listen anyway. You can expect rain if you hear them doing that a lot. They do. And if cranes place their bills under their wings, you can also expect rain. Well, they can forecast it. We can try. And that is your Grow Report for this week. Join us again next time when, once again, it will be time to grow.
We always love seeing your photos, whether you've been at state FFA, calving, or maybe doing some field work. We want to see those pictures and share them on the news. Go to our website, nebraska.tv, and chime in. We close out the show next as we meet our farm family of the month. Bringing new life into the world. It's what both Andy and Katie Blesson do, each in their own unique way.
You know, normally it's pretty easy going, but
when it came time to tag the first calf of the season, Mama Cow wasn't happy on a moment now liked and shared thousands of times on Facebook.
Zoomed in, no idea how I caught that picture.
Andy and Katie Blesson strive to be transparent as beef producers, and the photo keeps with that spirit. Katie is part of a young cattlemen's group, and they've both been involved with Farm Bureau as they try to advocate.
Impact the agricultural world in our county, in our state, in our nation.
And when they call it a family farm, they welcome 4-H kids to keep their cattle here.
Not just what lives in our house, but anybody's welcome here.
A diversified operation.
We run cow-calf pair, And then we run row crop, corn, soybeans, and alfalfa.
That little bit of row crop that we've been blessed with, and Andy's parents are a big part of why we get to be here.
You know, it's just been a great privilege and opportunity that God's blessed us with to work on the family farm.
Both Andy and Katie are accustomed to overnight calls, Andy with calves, and Katie as a labor and delivery nurse.
Yeah, my grandma always asked me if I'm at my paying job or my not paying job. So my not paying job is helping Andy on the farm or taking care of kids.
And the not paying job pays in ways no other job can. And yes, Andy escaped this run-in with no ill effects, except maybe an inflated ego for a couple of days.
Now I just joke around and say I'm famous, but...
That was an encore version of a story we enjoyed so much we wanted to bring it to you again. And that's going to bring Grow to a close. We'll see you back here again next time as we see how agriculture makes Nebraska grow.
NTV's Grow is brought to you by Aurora Cooperative. Tougher together, Aurora and you.